Well, it looks like we're back to it with The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, where the stupid just continues, really. It's not any better than Episode 1. And you start to realise as well that the first episode was pointless, other than this is what Cargo's doing, this is what Bo-Katan is doing, and this is the Mandalorian's mission, which we already knew because it was in Boba Fett. So we already knew that part. The IG-11 stuff gets completely dropped. The whole point that the side quest that they put the Mandalorian on just gets completely dropped because they realized that, oh no, we can't have IG-11 now, because otherwise we can't have this happen. We can't have these two characters team up if IG-11's there. So that's what they've done in this episode. And one thing I did only realize sort of after I done my review for episode 1 was even the stuff with IG-11. So the Mandalorian wants IG-11 because that is the only droid that he trusts. It gets ruined and he has to get it a new memory circuit, which means it wouldn't be the same droid. It would be a completely different droid. And the thing I was complaining about in my review was the fact that he could just get any droid. He could just get any droid. It didn't matter the droid. It didn't have to be a droid he trusted, but he was so stubborn, that's what he wanted. And even in that, it didn't even make sense because IG-11 would be a different droid. It would have a different memory board. Just the absolute incompetence with this show just amazes me. But as I say, this episode doesn't get any better. It's very frustrating for the majority of the episode. Again, we're dealing with the same thing where, we'll just get to it. We'll just get into it because you kind of have to. It's, just the amount of shite in this episode, just off the bat. It's just really... So they've got some festival going on Tatooine, so we have a quick stop by there. We all love seeing Tatooine, the desert, because we haven't seen that enough. We haven't seen that enough in recent years. So we're back on there in Mos Eisley, and we're going to see the mechanic woman that is annoying, a scumbag. What she's doing as we enter this episode is she's ripping this guy off. So he's in saying, oh, I need this fixed. There's a part missing. And she's like, oh, well, I'll order you the part. It will take about 2 months. So 2 months to order a part. Right, that's how that works. And then she says, oh, I'll get it on rush. That will make it, I don't know, a bit quicker. And then as it turns out, when the customer goes off, is she brings out what are they called? The Jawas. And it turns out that they ripped the part out of this guy's ship, so she's ripping him off. They tore the part out of his car, or whatever it is, and then she's just gonna replace it with his part. And she does the same thing to Mando later on. Again, she says to Mando, oh, I know you don't want this, but here, have this. Mando's like, no, I can't have that. I need this. And he takes it anyway. But we'll get to that in a couple of minutes, because Mando is about to turn up. He's about to come in, but, she's a ripping off bitch. That's what her character is, I guess. So Mando shows up, and then Grogu does his little hop out of the ship. He does it. Oh, wow. Wait, so cool. I'm already sick of Grogu in this season. He's just there to constantly go, oh, what's Grogu's reaction to this? It's like, I don't fucking care. But it's just constantly. It's like, oh, zoom into Grogu. Why? You trying to sell more toys? Again, that's the only reason why Grogu is in this show. Only reason. He's not fucking interesting. He's just, oh, he looks like Yoda. That's like the only thing about him. But other than that, he's just this thing that's here. We see his reaction all the time in every fucking scene. It's I don't care what Grogu thinks. He can't even speak, so I don't really care. But again, it's the same thing. I don't know. There's a load of stuff we're just gonna have to get to. So he turns up saying, "Oh, I'm looking for a part for a memory circuit for IG-11," not realizing that by getting a new memory for IG-11, it's no longer the droid I trust. Doesn't seem to realize that. So she's like, "Oh, it's going to be hard to find a part like that." She calls over the Jawas. The Jawas say, "Nah, we can't get that." So we're done with that now. We can't have IG-11. So we're going to have to figure out, right, what droid can I use? What droid do I need? Which Mando explains, if we just get to it. Whereabouts are we? So he's like, "I need my droid fixed." Yeah, the reason why he wants a droid, and he specifically, well, I'll tell you what type of droid he wants in a minute. But what he wants a droid for is to go ahead of him on Mandalore to test if the air is breathable, if it's poisonous. So that is what he needs. He needs a droid for. He needs a specific droid to do this task. And she's like, "Oh well, I've got this droid here that's clearly fucking in tatters." And he's like, "No, I need a rated spelunking droid," meaning a droid that can, of course, go down shafts, in tunnels, and all that sort of stuff. That is specifically what he says he needs. He needs a droid, not IG-11, but he needs a droid with that sort of rating, so it can go ahead of him, so it can test. And he says about this droid, "No, I can't. What do they call it? An astromech essentially won't cut it. That's not what he needs for his task." That's what he tells her, and she's like, "No, take it." Well, no, he just told you what the fuck he wanted. But we all know Mando. Well, I don't know. He was stubborn in episode 1, and in here he's just a pushover. We're doing the same thing we did with how he got his Naboo starfighter. Was he turned up because she said, she messaged him saying, "Oh, I've got a new Razor Crest. Got a new one." He turns up and she says, "Oh, here's a new Naboo starfighter." He says, "No, that's not what I need. I asked for a Razor Crest." And she's like, "Nah, you can have a Naboo starfighter." And he just goes, "All right then." Even though, again, we went over in episode 1, it makes no sense for him to have a Naboo starfighter, because all the traveling he does, he needs his quarters, a toilet, anything. But they gave him a Naboo starfighter because we must use nostalgia bait from the prequel trilogy. That's the reason why. They didn't think it through that, oh no, it doesn't make sense for a bounty fucking hunter. And again, you're starting to see that they must have realised the reason why we can't have IG-11, because he's not going to fit in the fucking ship. What, they're going to strap him to the back of it, are they? Strap him to the belly of the ship. So that's the reason why I'm like, oh right, they're not doing IG-11, because, yeah, they're starting to realise, oh shit, he's got the wrong ship. How is he going to fit this big droid on it as well? Well, it's not doable, is it? So we have to get rid of IG-11. We also have to get rid of IG-11, because if we had IG-11, then we couldn't have Mando team up with Bo-Katan. We wouldn't be able to have that happen. But some of that we will get to, but he's went over what he needs. I need a rated spelunking droid. That is not what this is. It's not what it is. So he says, "No, I can't have that." She says, "Oh, no, have it." So Mando says, "All right, I'll have it." No, that's not what you want, though. Why are you just giving in to her? It's like, it's an old droid that is clearly messed up. She, like, taps it and it all falls apart. So why would he not just go, "Well, I don't want that"? I'm pretty sure he even mentions that it's fallen apart, and he still takes it on. So it's the exact same thing that, for those that didn't see Boba Fett, that's what they do in there. He turns up, wants a Razor Crest. She says, I ain't got one. Have a Naboo starfighter. He says, "No, that's not going to suit my needs." And then he takes it on anyway. Just fuck off, show. It's really just such a backwards show. It's like he clearly doesn't want this. It clearly doesn't suit his needs. And I mean, if you're going to take this droid on, maybe don't tell us that like what kind of droid he needs, because then it's like, well, no, you can't have this droid. This isn't the droid you want. I thought you only wanted IG-11 anyway. I thought that was the only droid I trust, even though I'm going to replace his fucking memory circuit. Therefore, not being the droid I trust. But now he's like, no, I don't trust. I only trust one droid, but now I'm going to take this droid on that I don't trust, even though it's not what I want. It doesn't fit the bill. Even though later on it doesn't matter anyway, because even though Mando says, no, he doesn't fit the bill, later on it's like, oh, he does fit the bill. He can now analyze the atmosphere of Mandalore, even though he said, oh, no, that's not going to cut it. So it's so annoying. Such an annoying show. So after all that, he decides to take it on, even though he said, that's not what I want. Honestly, man, I don't get what people see in this show. It's like, you know, I get why people enjoy it, but I don't get why people would say, oh, it's a good show though. It's because it's not. That what just happened does not make any sense. It's so backwards. But again, they are starting to. They've obviously realised that they fucked up by giving him a Naboo starfighter. I mean, how are you going to fit IG-11 in it? So I think that's part of the reason. And then also the part of the reason, if he had IG-11, then later on, certain things wouldn't happen in order for Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian to team up together. So that's exactly what's going on here. But just don't make these mistakes in the first place. But absolute, you know, that's Jon Favreau for you. Pretty sure he wrote this episode as well. Again, as I said in my it's because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about it. Jon Favreau's done good shit. Iron Man, great movie. Yet here, it's like, nah. You know, I don't want to. Clearly, it's just, you know, I want a movie. So these shows, I'll do them. I won't put any effort in, though. All right, so where do we go now? Yeah, so when he's about to take off, she says to him about this droid, I wouldn't rely too much on this one. Its circuitry is a little fragile. So Mando's like, what? I thought you said it was built for adventure. But she shuts the top of his roof, this little cover here, and says, "Oh, I can't hear you." So she's a piece of shit, really. It's like, why is Mando and her friends? She just ripped him off and literally pointed out to him, "I've ripped you off." Because I've just given, even though he didn't need her to tell him that, because when she hit it earlier, all its shit started falling out. So she's just completely ripped him off and given him something that he said he doesn't want, that he said is not going to do what he needs it to do. So I don't know why they've repeated that from Boba Fett. I really don't. I honestly, when I seen her mention, like when I was first watching it, that oh you can use this, I thought, oh, he's going to take that fucking droid, even though he said that's not what he wants. I'm like, how can you repeat that same mistake with a Naboo starfighter? Whatever, let's just move on. But yeah, Mando's a pushover. Quite clearly, if he's like just willingly getting ripped off. But where do we go now? So he takes off and she says, "May the Force be with you." Shut up. With your stupid sayings that I get people cooming. They said the thing. They said the Force. Yeah, Mandalorian's not a fucking Jedi. You know, you're saying it to Grogu, but he had like one day of training. So then they're flying off. There's all these fireworks going on because of the festival, and then they're now at Mandalore. I'm really shocked that we're at Mandalore in episode 2. I honestly thought they would have dragged that out till the final episode, but my guess is going into episode 3, it's going to turn out, the waters didn't work because I have to go and stand in the showers of Mandalore. It'd be something like that. It would be, oh no, I have to go to another planet to do something first for this to take effect. That's probably my guess, because what they, again, a lot of this stuff we're gonna eventually get to. So again, he's teaching Grogu about navigation. You know, they're doing this for a reason later on, and yes, it doesn't justify anything. But he's telling Grogu, like, let me see. Yeah, he mentions, oh, that's the planet that we visited Bo-Katan on in the previous episode. That is in the same system as Mandalore. There's a reason why he's telling him that, because Grogu later on has got to fly to Mandalore on his own. Some of it we'll talk about again. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So he says to Grogu, a Mandalorian has to understand maps and know their way around. You literally, you told him this just in a different way in episode 1. I don't really know why we're teaching him this. When is Grogu going to fly a ship? He's too small. Too small. Too young. Do we think, is Grogu ever going to grow up? Or is he just always going to just be this bubbling fucking idiot that is just, oh, look how cute he is. I wouldn't be surprised if they made him a Mandalorian or something like that. I would not be surprised if they'd done that. So they then fly into the planet. They point out, oh, that was the moon that I was brought up on. And then they fly down through the clouds. You know, it's all stormy. And then they get to Mandalore. And Mando says, we're now cut off from anything outside of the atmosphere, so they're on their own. Yeah, they won't be able to communicate out of the atmosphere. So they land, and he sends the droid off. The droid that he said wouldn't fit the bill. He literally said, no, that won't work. So he sends the droid off, and that has to go into sort of inside the planet to figure out if the air's breathable. And I mean, they do that in one spot. It's like, for some reason with Star Wars, we always forget that these are planets. They are big, massive planets. Just because the air in this specific part is not poisonous doesn't mean other places aren't. So you could go like another 10 miles and the air's poisonous. So just checking one place. And I mean, so essentially what we're doing is the Mandalorians' planet is destroyed. They believe it is. They can't go there because the air isn't breathable. And they haven't once thought to send a droid there themselves to test it. Mando just says, oh, the tests from last time were wrong. So, but what? Why? Why was it wrong? Why didn't they try again later on? I don't know. I really don't know, but it's just funny that the Mandalorians never thought to do this. They're just like, nah, we'll leave it. Even though all it takes is land on the planet with a droid, send the droid out, and it can test it. And they haven't tried this multiple times over the years. So the droid goes off. This is a bit of a cowardly droid, so you've still got the wrong droid. It goes off, and they wait for it to come back. And yeah, I think they radio into it, and it disappears. Maybe you should have used a rated spelunking droid. Maybe you should have used that. And especially one with guns. That's why IG-11 would be perfect for this situation. But we can't have him, can we? No, we can't do that because we need things to happen. So we must have it done stupidly. We couldn't have just had it at the end of episode 1 that Mando says, oh, Bo-Katan, would you be able to help me? And she helps him. We couldn't just do it straightforward and simple like that. We had to jump through all these hoops, and it just comes out looking daft on the other side. Right, so But yeah, I just find it hilarious. He's got this droid, and it's not the droid he wants. So the droid doesn't contact him back. So Mando's like, "Oh, I was trying to avoid getting out of here." His helmet is pressurized. I did have to do a quick Google search on that because I'm like, is it? Is it? We may have to check that. But it is. So he tells Grogu to get in his little pod while he opens the hatch and gets out, pressurizes his helmet, and then he's gonna have to go in and check on the droid. So yeah, you could have done this. You could have done this already. You could have done this in the first place. Why do you need a droid anyway to test it? You must have like a little portable device that is able to test it. So you don't necessarily need a droid, do you? You could have just came down. Oh, I've got my little poison detector, and you could have tested it like that. You don't need a droid. Fuck me. So he gets out, and then he closes that, and then Grogu comes out of his pod already. It's like, no, if the air's poisonous, it's already got in this little compartment. When you close it, that poisonous air is now inside there. So you should already look at that and go, oh, Grogu's fine. Oh, maybe it's not poisonous then. Honestly, just a lack of any competence whatsoever. So he goes in this little green cave. You know what really frustrates me about the show is that there's like things that look like this that look really interesting that you could do a lot of good things with. Unfortunately, we've just got such a shitty level of writing that it doesn't offer me anything other than, oh, looks cool. It looks cool, but we're not going to tell a good story with it, are we? We're not going to do anything interesting within the city of Mandalore or whatever it's called. So he's looking out there, and then we got action to happen. So it's like these big trolls, massive. It's kind of similar to those out of the Time Machine, the movie from like the 60s. They look very similar to that. They got sort of long whitish hair. I think the only difference is they've got like 4 green eyes. So they come down, they attack Mando. Mando's struggling. Yet later, Bo-Katan takes them easily. Why do we have to have the main character just incompetent, and then Bo-Katan comes in and just wipes them all out so easily? So he's like shooting them, and then he decides to bring out this, bring out the Darksaber. For those that don't know, in Boba Fett, they introduced the Darksaber as that for some reason it's now heavy. The Darksaber is really heavy. Mando can barely hold it. It's really, even though Gideon, when he fought with it, it wasn't heavy. Yet in Boba Fett, he had a sparring match with one of the other Mandalorians, and all of a sudden this big sword's heavy. It's like really heavy for anyone that picked it up. Even though with Gideon, he was just striking like you would a normal lightsaber. But they introduced it as, no, it's fucking heavy, so maybe don't use it then. It's not worth using, is it? It's like you've got these 3 trolls, 3 very strong trolls. I don't think it's worth you bringing this out because it's too heavy. It's too heavy. It's weighing you down. It's not quite doing what you want it to do. But no, he's using it. But I don't know why they all of a sudden introduced it as, no, it's a really heavy weapon. Even though we've seen it in season 2 when Mando fought Gideon and Gideon was just fucking slashing away. Yeah, in Boba Fett they introduced it as, no, it's fuck off heavy. So I don't know what, so yeah, but they've just made it pointless using if it's too heavy. And then later on it comes up and that isn't the case. So they've just created, there's no consistency with it. What is it, heavy or is it light? Because it seems like with some characters it's light and other characters it's heavy. And from what I remember of Boba Fett, they do not explain why the Darksaber is heavy. It's just heavy for reasons. So he manages to kill all these trolls after it took him ages. He knocks all those down. The droid's over there, a bit beaten up. Maybe if you had something like IG-11 or something that was force spelunking and wouldn't just be able to get pushed over, you wouldn't have this mess, would you? You wouldn't have had to come down. But no, we dropped that. We dropped that for reasons, because we realised, oh fuck, we've set this up, and now it's not going to make any sense. Or rather, it's not going to do what we wanted it to do. So he takes the droid back out to Grogu. They test it. It turns out, oh, it's not poisonous. The charts that came back years ago were wrong. So no one thought to come back again. So it's all fine, even though they've only tested it in this part of a planet. But again, I don't know why they do that with Star Wars now. They forget how big a planet is. Like, in almost every show they do now, you know, I can't remember if Andor did it. I don't think it did. But when they have something like, oh, I have to look for a person, I just need to go to Mos Eisley. Well, no, where they treat like Tatooine like it's one city. It's like, no, it's an entire planet. But I think with this, it's like, no, you're gonna have to test a lot more of the atmosphere. You can't just do it in one spot and you got the read on the entire planet. I don't think that's the case. I mean, it's very similar with, you know, if it's radiation. It's like, yeah, you may not have radiation in this part, but over there in this part of the world, there's radiation. So I would expect you'd have to test more of it. I would have had something set up on the ship, like you just fly through the atmosphere, maybe fly around the whole planet, which should take a while, but in this show it doesn't. That's what I would have done. He just has some sort of device that's put on his ship, on his Naboo starfighter. It doesn't make no sense, and just fly through the atmosphere to get a read on the entire planet. But no, we got stupid. I need a droid. That's not the droid I want. Oh, I'm going to take that droid anyway. And it somehow does what I need it to do, even though I said it doesn't. So they decide to go in because it's all fine. They fly down. I don't think I'm missing anything at the minute. No, I haven't. So yeah, they fly down. They walk along. There's all like these little weird looking alligators and stuff. And then they eventually come to a bit where Mando sees a Mandalorian helmet in the ground. He picks it up, and of course, because we need an action scene, this big massive thing picks him up and takes him away. So you're starting to see the reason why we don't have IG-11. Because if he had a droid that could go ahead of him and make sure everything was safe, then this wouldn't happen, and Grogu wouldn't have to fly off to go and get Bo-Katan, to bring Bo-Katan back here, and set him and Bo-Katan on their journey together. So that's why they got rid of a robot, or rather droid, that was like IG-11. Because otherwise this wouldn't happen. Because the droid would have went ahead of him and would have already spotted this and messaged back to him, oh, there's something down here. Which would have avoided this entire situation. So that's the reason they don't have, you know, a droid that they need. It's just for those reasons. Very contrived. So it doesn't see Grogu, so Grogu's kind of looking looking at this thing, and it jumps out. Where is it? Oh no, I think oh no, I'm not. Thought I missed a bit there. And it's like this little thing, you know, just CGI thing. I don't know what it is. It's obvious, part mechanical, part flesh. So Grogu sees it. It's like stripping Mando of all his stuff, and it's like injecting him with stuff as well to sort of knock him out, I guess. And then later on, it starts like taking his blood. I don't know why. It just starts like filling his blood, putting his blood through pipes and all that. So Grogu's watching all this. He goes to try and help. And in fact, I don't want to miss this because it made me fucking laugh. You just we'll just go through this frame by frame so you can see Grogu's run. It's just one of those comical runs that he does. What the fuck is that? That didn't look good. That's almost as bad as in season 2 when they had him on rollerblades. It's almost as bad as that. It's like he's running, but he's fucking back here. What the fuck's going on? Oh, that was funny. So, yeah, he tries to use the Force, doesn't do nothing. Mando, even though he was injected with something that knocked him out, he says, oh, go and get Bo-Katan. How's he going to do that? How's Grogu going to do that? He's not able to fly. You know, he could tell the droid, but he can't speak. So how is he going to get to Bo-Katan? Well, that's easy, you see, as we'll soon get to. So he starts flying through all this bit. You know, he gets up, gets back to the ship. He uses the Force. Wow, so amazing. He gets in the ship. And it's like, so earlier on when Mando pointed out where the planet Bo-Katan was on, he pointed to this. Grogu's pointing here. What the fuck's he pointing to? How is the droid going to look at that and go, what are you pointing at? You're not even pointing at the navigation system. You know, the puppeteer is fucked up. Somewhere along the lines, he's fucked up. So Grogu's not even pointing at this. So how does he get there? How does he get there? I don't know. The droid just assumes, even though the droid's never been there. And Grogu's not pointing at the right planet. And the planet is a planet. What about the coordinates? Again, we've forgotten that a planet is a fucking planet. You need coordinates to figure out exactly where Bo-Katan lives. So how are they getting this ship here? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And Grogu's not pointing at the right planet. So the droid is just going to go, oh, you want to go somewhere over here then? That's what would happen. But they try to make out later on that, oh, Grogu found me. He's so tough. No, he didn't. He pointed at the wrong place and the ship just turned up here. He did nothing. But they tried to act as if he used the Force to do it. It's like, no, the droid did it. And even then, what's the droid got to go on? Nothing. So, yeah, it flies off. And I'm pretty sure he does not use the Force on it. They start it up and everything. It's all on the droid. So Bo-Katan sees Mando's ship coming and goes, I thought I told him to piss off. So she goes out there fuming, starts shouting at the ship, and then Grogu pops out, and she's like, what's happened to Din? Or Dim, I'd rather call him. What happened to Din Djarin? Where is he? So she just, of course, assumes that, oh, he must be in trouble, and he sent Grogu here. Grogu got here because reasons. And later on, we're going to make out that, oh, it's because he's so great with the Force. As if that's got to do with anything. But yeah, I haven't really went over that much of Grogu's reactions, but they just for everything, we have to look at Grogu's face. I think people are definitely on the right thing when it's like, we're essentially just looking at everything from Grogu's perspective, essentially. We're always just, whenever something's happening, we're always just panning to Grogu. And he's really started to piss me off this season. He just annoys me. I'm just like, what do you do? What do you provide? Oh, well, Din Djarin's like my dad. We've got such a connection, because reasons. So they fly off in Bo-Katan's ship. She's at least got a ship that suits what she needs, you know. Whereas Mando, he got a ship that he didn't want. Right. So she flies down. They see the city, and she's like, "Oh, it wasn't always like this. No shit." Grogu knows that this planet was destroyed. So I don't know why you're telling him that. But she starts like talking to him like you can speak back. It's the same as talking to a dog, really. Except, I prefer a dog to fucking Grogu. So they now get to this place, and Grogu's gonna guide her down. They start talking and stuff. Have I missed anything here? Yeah, she's just saying, how good are you with the Force? You must be really good if you got back to me alone. That didn't happen. The droid did it, even though it had nothing to go on. So I don't know why you're crediting Grogu with this. He'd done nothing. He just sat in a ship and pointed in the wrong place. So I don't know what that's got to do with the Force. He didn't do it with the Force. It flew like a fucking ship. It had its engine switched on. So they go through this place, and then she because she's more competent than Mando is, she realizes, oh, those troll things from earlier, they're walking about up here. So she blasts the floor, and they all fall in. She fights them, beats them very easily, whereas Mando was struggling. And I don't know why they do it in this show. She has both her guns out like this. I'll see if it's in this part. Why are you letting him knock your guns out of your hand? They did that with Mando as well. He held his gun out like that, and the trolls knocked out his hands. And she's just done the same thing. It's like, no, you can see that guy coming. Don't let him knock your guns out off you. But it doesn't matter. She can just take him down. Why can't we have the main character this capable, this competent? Why I don't get. Why can't we? It's like we had this same fight earlier on with Mando, and Mando, it was a struggle for him. He had to bring out the Darksaber because that's going to achieve a lot. A very heavy fucking sword. So they continue on. There's this thing taking out his blood. And then Bo-Katan shows up and starts shooting at him. They have a fight. And this is when we run into some problems, you see. As I've explained, the Darksaber originally was just like a normal sword. There was no weight to it. It wasn't heavy. Then in Boba Fett, they introduced it as, oh, now it's heavy. Out of nowhere. They don't explain why it's heavy. And then when Bo-Katan decides to use it, it's light again. It's light. I thought this was fucking heavy. And even when Mando had his fight with another Mandalorian, the other Mandalorian also picked this up, and it was heavy for him. But with Bo-Katan, it's light. Why is that? Are we going to get an explanation on that? Or is it just heavy for... It's so inconsistent now. I don't understand how you can have... Oh, it's light. Now it's heavy. Oh, now it's light again. Just fuck off. But she fights with it. It's not heavy. It's not heavy at all. I guess that's how that works. So she manages to kill the thing. She doesn't make sure it's dead, so of course it wakes up and then it attacks her again. Good job. They're always competent until they're incompetent. But she can now it's been established that Bo-Katan, for some reason, it's now the Darksaber is now lightweight. Just piss off, honestly. There's no shred of thought that goes into this show. It's just, oh, Bo-Katan could do this. But again, you're starting to see the reason why they got rid of IG-11, or at least a droid like that. Because then Grogu wouldn't have to go off and get Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan wouldn't have to come and help Mando, and then we wouldn't have our adventure with Bo-Katan, which I'm assuming is probably what we'll be doing. So Mando's he wakes up, he has some soup. Yeah, I think I need to change my page now. We've not got much to go. We're almost done. This was a bit of a longer episode. I was expecting more to talk about. Yeah, she says, "Oh, Grogu's quite the navigator." It's like, no, he just pointed at the wrong thing, and the droid somehow knew where to go. I don't know why you're saying, "Oh, he's quite a navigator." He didn't do shit. They really try to big Grogu up, didn't they? To really make it seem like he's not just for toy sales. Fuck. So then he's like, "Oh, I gotta go from a bath to be redeemed. I gotta bathe in the waters that lay below Mandalore." She's like, "Oh, I do find it adorable that you actually believe those children's stories." And Mando's reply back to that is, "Without the creed, what are we? What do we stand for? Our people are scattered. The creed is how we survived." What's that got to do with, right? Just because the creed helped you, they taught you how to. That means they're correct. That means that, oh no, these waters are magical, and I'm just gonna go along with it because they helped me. So she's still like, oh, it's bollocks. It's bollocks. But we don't really go that far into the sort of waters and all that. It's probably something we're going to find out, I imagine, in the next episode. But we're getting there, so he's like, right, I've got to go. I appreciate your help and all that. And she's like, no, I'll come with you. You won't be able to find it on your own. So they go together. They have an uninteresting conversation. Mando says like the most basic generic shit ever. You know, he's just saying stuff like, "Oh, I can't believe that Mandalorians actually lived. Why couldn't you? It's a fucking city." So they just have like this very boring conversation. Even when they verge on something interesting, it just gets passed off as, I'll say it here. Bo-Katan says, the Empire smashed us because the Mandalorians were too busy killing each other. So what you would expect out of that is going, oh, I quite like an explanation on why. Why were the Mandalorians killing each other? Why did they turn into different factions? You know, all that business. She just says, it's for reasons too hard to explain. Great. So you bring something up, you're like, oh no, it's too hard to explain. Why? Why is it? You were there, weren't you? Why can't you explain it, at least in somewhat little detail you can? It's just like, nah, they were killing each other for reasons too hard to explain. Thanks, show. You definitely gave me a lot there, so we're back to uninteresting. They're just walking through these places. And then, Bo-Katan starts talking about her dad. So this is how that conversation goes. It's essentially, oh no, my father was proud of me. I never embarrassed him. I know he was proud of me. I never embarrassed him. So Mando says to that, he sounds very interesting. Why? Because he's proud of his daughter. That's the reason. That's what that's what goes for interesting to Mando. Is, oh, you had a proud dad. He sounds interesting. You're just barely a character. Not a character. You gave us nothing there, Mando. Thanks for that. So yeah, they continue on. They have like, oh, what does Grogu think of this? She reads some shit about the symbol of the whatever, I don't give a fuck. And then Mando sees the water, so he takes off some of his armor. Maybe take most of it off. You're going in water. There's very heavy stuff, that. So he goes into the waters, like reciting some sort of shit. Like, oh, this is the way, and the way of the water, whatever. And then he walks into this. He walks into this, and then just disappears. What I really hope that's not because he had some of his armor still on. That he just went into a deep bit and just boom, straight down. I really, because that would make Mando look very, very stupid. But I can only assume that is what it is. He sunk because he went in with his armor on. At least some of it. And it's quite heavy armor. So based on what we see in this part, I can only assume that is what he literally walked in there and sank because he had his armor on. Because he's dumb. It's totally in character for him. And like how quickly he falls as well. I'm like, what? And he's like at the very bottom. This is like very, very deep water as well. So I guess he sank, but when they're coming up, there's like these monsters. There's like but they don't do anything to Bo-Katan. And I think that because she struggles to actually lift him up to begin with when she hits the bottom of the water. So it's almost like, yeah, he must weigh a ton because of his armor. So I can only assume that's what it is. But there's like these, but they don't attack her. So I'm pretty sure they don't drag him down. He just sinks because he went in there with his armor on. So that doesn't make him look very good. And yes, so Bo-Katan saves him, and that's the end of the episode. Written by Jon Favreau. Who would have guessed it? But that's episode 2. Again, it's not, I wouldn't say I don't think it's worse than the first episode of this season. It's kind of still on level with it. Just total shit. Not much thought put into it. All that droid stuff just enraged me. Because I'd seen it in Boba Fett, I'm like, they're not going to do that again. Do not do that again, where she just goes, I know you don't want this, but you're taking it, and Mando just gives in. Even though it's not the droid he wants. And then it turns out to actually do what he wants. So what was the whole fucking point in episode 1? There wasn't any point. It was just, here's what Mando's mission is. Here's what Bo-Katan's doing. Here's what Cargo's doing. And that's all it was. Anything else that happened in it didn't really matter. But that's, wasting people's time. That's what I would expect out of this. But what else can I really say about this? It's just fucking shite. It is just horseshit. And I mean, just going over some of these interesting, the city. It all looks interesting, and they don't do anything with it. They don't do anything interesting. So I don't know. After this, are we done with Mandalore now? Or is it gonna be as I predicted? In the next episode, it's gonna turn out, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. So I've got to go over here with Bo-Katan to do this. That's what I predict for the next episode. We'll see if they actually do that, but we've been going long enough. So I'm just going to finish on that. I'm going to go and get a drink because I'm out of breath. Always out of breath after doing these reviews. That always end up taking me a very long time, but they take as long as it takes, really. But this was a long episode, but yeah, I don't know if we're done with Mandalore now. I honestly thought they would have dragged that out to the end of the season. It would be like the last 2 episodes we would do that. So now I'm curious, very curious on what's to come next in the next episode.